People in Fort Myers Beach are still rebuilding from Hurricane Ian, which destroyed most homes and businesses on the island 11 months ago today. The threat of another storm, especially when so many homes are still under construction, is frightening.
NBC2's Gage Goulding continues our live team coverage on Fort Myers Beach with a way to visualize the kind of storm surge we might see this week.
Yeah, Peter, Kelly, let's just call it as we see it. This will be nothing even close to Hurricane Ian, so let's make sure everybody knows that. However, we are going to see some elevated storm surge, especially here along our coastal communities like Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Captiva. Those areas that got hit hardest by Ian are going to see it. So right now we're standing here at the Fort Myers Beach Pier that is destroyed. I'm standing in the water, not because it's fun in the evening, but because I want to show you something. Where I'm at right now is, and for reference, I'm 6'3", so that kind of gives you an idea. The water is approaching my hips, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. This pool that I have is a total of 8 feet long. So a lot of this is approximate, and the storm surge we're supposed to get for this part of Lee County is between 2 and 4 feet. Now, we're going to err on the side of caution and go with the higher number of 4 feet just to be safe. 8 feet. Where I'm at, I'd say it's about 3.5, 4 feet, maybe when these swells move through as the tide comes in. And this is kind of a cookie cutter of what we're going to be seeing tomorrow night, right? High tide around 2:20, 2:30 in the morning, depending on where you are. And the worst of our storm surge peak is going to be about midnight to the early morning hours of Wednesday. So just keep that in mind. This is when we're going to be seeing it as that high tide comes rushing in. So I'd say, I'll move a little bit further back if I can fight the waves here a little bit. I'd say with these swells coming in, we're definitely at 4 feet. So add another 4 feet on top of that. And the main point of this is that it's taller than me. This little yellow ribbon, the reflective ribbon at the top here, that's signifying that additional 4 feet. That's towards the higher end, right? So if I was standing out here tomorrow during the peak storm surge and the peak high tide, I would be underwater. So that's kind of one way to look at it. That's our worst case scenario as of right now, is that we would kind of peak out there. Now, another thing I want to show you is still 4 feet above ground level. That's what we're dealing with the storm surge. So, okay, it's easy to kind of explain that out whenever I'm standing in the water, but what does that look like here on dry land? As I said, we have high tide rolling up with us right now. What does that look like with the Fort Myers Beach Pier? Remind you, this is 8 feet tall. I'm 6'3". So 4 feet, as I get into the light here, I guess, you can see about half of this, I'd say, probably around here. That's worst case scenario right now, is that where we're standing on dry beach, kind of near the rack line, just below the rack line of high tide, is where this water would be. So kind of just to put it into a little bit of a perspective for you, once again, if I was standing out here around that time, if everything hits at the worst case scenario, worst storm surge, worst high tide, and it kind of just a perfect concoction of bad, that water would probably be what? Up to about my belly button, approximately, maybe about right here. So that kind of visualizes it. Now, coming up at 11, if you're wondering what that looks like for Times Square, for other parts of Fort Myers Beach, maybe for your beachfront home, will you see water? How much water will you see? Well, coming up at 11, we're going to visualize that a little bit more. We'll be using this big pool to kind of show you how that's going to differentiate from the Gulf of Mexico, from the pier, to even into the Times Square area. That's coming up tonight at 11 on NBC2. Reporting live on Fort Myers Beach, Gage Goulding, NBC2.